Pardon me for the echo chamber, but I've been dying to make this video. And I just watched another What If alt history. And he's really getting on my nerves. I picked up on it a while ago. His subtle bigotry. And he was covering the topic of cultures and family structure. And he's on this thing where, yeah, he's got the YouTube channel, he has lots of views, but he really does believe in white cultural superiority. And not only white cultural superiority, white cultural Christian superiority. And he's the type of person that looks at the world and where it is now and assumes that the way that power is distributed in the world is the result of white people's cultural and Christian superiority. And like I've always said, white people's ingenuity is only matched by their savagery. And the savagery part they never want to own. White people want around and they want to be the moral compass of the world, which is why I always look at black people sideways when they A, subscribe to Christianity, and then B, look at white people as though, white people should be, the forebearers of the moral compass of the world, right? And he even acknowledges that one of the things, like when it comes to white people, they operate on guilt. The Middle East operates on shame. I forget what he said. Africa operates on, but something else. But I've watched a number of his videos. And, again, when he gets to the black people, he gets to Africa, it's like, oh, they're just like that. So anyway, talking about family structures, which is what his video was about. And there was a bunch of comments in here, just silly ass comments. Where's the comments at? Here's one comment. This comment says, you have mentioned that the absolute nuclear family has proven the most successful, but we may find its weaknesses in the future. I think that you have touched on these weaknesses in the last part of the video. Societies with absolute nuclear families uphold their social structure via social interactions outside of their family. With the major decline of participation in social institutions, churches, social clubs, unions, etc., in the last decades, it erodes the glue which held those societies together. This decline, combined with atomized structure and individualistic streak of absolute nuclear family, mass these families more prone to divorces, with no clan or extended family to fall back upon. This creates broken families and single parent households with endemic problems. Therefore, I think that the main problem of societies with absolute nuclear family is that this model of family is too fragile and depends on well-functioning social institutions outside the family. Now, the last part I actually circled and sent to somebody because the last part is a part that I agree with. The rest of what he said about, these social clubs, churches, and all that other stuff being the glue. And this is where I really get irritated with white conservative Christians. Because in my opinion, white conservative Christians are the enemy of everybody. They're the enemy of everybody, including themselves, because they're so busy trying to make a moral or spiritual argument and try to make religion a thing. And when I say a thing, try to make religion the glue that holds all of society together. And these will be the people who will jump up and say that Western society is collapsing because people aren't going to church anymore, right? People aren't going to church, namely men. Men are the ones that are not going to church. Men are not going to church because church is no longer connected to economic opportunities like it once was before. Church was not just a matter of, going there and getting your Jesus fixed. When you were in church, you were a participating member of a community that was also religious and also Christian and also went to church. And just like a fraternity, right, you use that to leverage getting a good job. Oh, well, you're a good moral Christian, so, come work for me. The jobs were there. Once the jobs were no longer there, men failed to see the purpose of going to church. Who's going to sit there and waste their Sunday in church when they can't pay their mortgage? And this is the frustration that I have with all of these white conservative Christians, because they always want to make it about God and religion and, all this bullshit. Fox News does this crap all the time. And a good portion of Americans fall for it. A good, huge chunk of white Americans fall for this crap. And there's racism baked in there. Again, it's all this, same as I'm saying about this, what if alt history, this white supremacy that revolves around white cultural Christian superiority. And they truly believe that if everybody would just get right with the Lord, then we could get our nuclear families back in order. Like the guy who brought up all this stuff about the churches and the institutions that nobody participates anymore. All of those things cost money. All of those things cost money. Even when you go to church, the church is begging for money, begging for tithes, only to turn around and tell people about how unimportant money is. The pursuit of money is evil. Money is evil. All this bullshit. And then when we get over to talking about unions and we get to talking about young men being gainfully employed, it's like everybody draws a blank because they don't want to talk about the money. The next comment that I saw, and this was a comment that I wholeheartedly agreed with, and this is where the conversation needs to go. And this is from Fudgelology. And he says, and he wrote this 4 days ago, he says, I think the problem with the nuclear family structure is the rigidity of it. When people can't go out and start families because of terrible economic and social situations, this structure starts to break down and shift into something else. Exactly. People start doing what they can do because the what do you want to call it? The biological imperative to reproduce is strong and it's still going to be there. This structure starts to break down and shift into something else, like how what if alt history mentioned at the end of the video. Also, the emergence of the internet has damaged the nuclear structure. There isn't as much interaction with one's local community now. I don't think that's the problem. I know the last part about the people are on the internet and there's what did he say? Not as much social interaction. I think it's tied. The primary issue is again tied to the poor economy. Like one of the things that What If Old History said that was irritating the hell out of me is he was bringing up communism and they operated like this, and in the Asian community they operated like this, in Africa they operated like this, right? And all of these white Christians want to go back to this 1950s model of marriage and family structure, which at least in the Western sense, I would argue is ideal. Father, mother, children, same household, right? But when you don't have a society that supports young men being gainfully employed to where they can buy a home, lay down a foundation, have, health care for them and their children, provide, decent, adequate clothing, to, the standards of what people would say would be dignity within the society, right? Providing for your wife and all of the expenses, from the biblical patriarchal standpoint, then those families are going to cease to exist. I am so sick and tired of all these Fox News type white conservative Christians going on television talking about morality this and people are behaving like this and where are the parents? All this bullshit, but they always want to completely ignore the money aspect of young men being gainfully employed, right? If a young man is gainfully employed, he provides for his family, he moves out of his parents' place, and he supports his family. And then when he becomes an old man, he's got a solid foundation. Hell, he might be able to even help out his kids in some way after a lifetime of achievements. But if the opportunities are there, they're able to move out. They're able to go off, do the same thing, purchase a house, lay down their foundations. And that's where you get the model of the nuclear families or multiple nuclear patriarchal families all over the place. And that's where you end up with a society that looks like that 1950s American model. And when you go to other communities, other countries around the world, whether you want to talk about China and all that stuff, let's look at China. Let's look at the Asian model. Again, you're talking about people who for centuries were basically peasant farmers. There was no American 1950s model. There's a video on YouTube called Why is Latin America Poor versus Why is North America Rich? And when they go into breaking down how Latin America was basically set up to strictly be exploited and America had a different model in terms of who got bank loans and who was able to go out there and basically gain debt in order to invest in the other areas and then pay back the banks. So the banks are making their money, but there was still an investment in the society. And I don't want to get into the specifics of it. I just remember that that was like the one of the main points in that video was that, in terms of like, in order to get a bank loan, I want to start a business, get a bank loan in Latin America, it's completely different. You got to know somebody, all this stuff. They were giving this whole breakdown about how Latin America was set up, which was just to vacuum resources out of it. And America was a different model. And the rest of the world has not seen the American model like that. Even with China, like they just started to entertain the privatization of things, and letting the people have their own because, communism can't really compete against a capitalist system. It doesn't incentivize people enough. People are like, hey, if I put in X amount of work, I want X amount of, return on investment. If you can't give people that, people will just simply do the bare minimum, which is the whole premise of all this quiet quitting. It's like, I'm not going to bust my ass off and do all this stuff when there is no dangling carrot. I'm not going to get the promotion. I'm barely making it now. I'm not going to be able to purchase a house. I'm not going to be able to grow, right? So they're just like, fuck it. I might as well just sit here and do the bare minimum. And so when you look around the world at all these other alternative family structures, where you're taking care of extended family, like with the Chinese, because, there really wasn't a social security for elders. This was the whole issue of why when they had that one child policy, they were sacrificing the girls and keeping the sons because the sons were expected to be more productive because they were the ones that would be making the money and taking care of the elderly parents. They didn't want that for the girls because the girls were not seen as the money makers, right? So you ended up with a situation where, they live with their, the in-laws move in with the son and he takes care of his parents and the in-laws and all this extended, crap. And he's the patriarch of the productive male. The younger productive male is the patriarch of the whole family and whatnot. But the issue is that the elders are not able to take care of themselves, which demonstrates to me that it's a failed patriarchal system. It's a failed patriarchal model When you end up with a situation where it's like you can only be productive in the years in which you are working, which highlights the fact that the working individuals aren't making enough money because when they get to old age, they have nothing. They have nothing saved. They have nothing, to show for it. So they have to move in with their children or their daughter's husband or some shit like that in order to survive. That's a failed system. And it's a failed system because, again, the focus is not on, hey, we have to have gainfully employed men that can grow and that where you can have these 1950s American, suburban type of neighborhoods. And then the same thing when we get into Latin America, same thing when we get into Africa. Towards the end of the video, he went like this. It's always some low key racism, which in Africa, and then he even threw in like African Americans in Brazil, and they were on the African model. The African slaves were stripped of any amount of African culture when they were brought to the Americas. But he put it all with his little chart. He put it all underneath the umbrella of Africa they basically operate with a matriarchal dysfunctional setup, completely ignoring colonialism and the disruption that caused. We can talk about corrupt African leaders with their money in a Swiss bank account, and they want to be, the only black man in the community with money, and everybody else is poor and dusty. And it's like, and that's why all the other the men in the community have these dysfunctional, as I would call them, dysfunctional family structures. But he wants to act like it's some shit that's innately African. No, it's a byproduct of colonialism that is still going on in the neo-colonialism that's going on in Africa. Anytime you do not have men who are gainfully employed, you are not going to have the 1950s Christian household structure. First off, the women ain't even going to stick around in that situation and submit and follow and all this other stuff, regardless of the idea, what if she's just a defiant bitch? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that if a woman is in a situation where she's not being provided for, she's not being taken care of, the dude is in and out of employment, there's no real stability there. She may procreate with the man, and especially if the larger society, nobody, has it like that. Nobody is operating like that. Then, yeah, she's going to think like, we just, this is what women do. You end up being big mama. You raise the kids. You take care of the kids. The man comes through and, helps whenever he can. You know what I mean? But he's not the foundation. He's not the backbone of the community. And so you end up with these alternative models like what this guy said in the comment. When people can't go out and start families because of a terrible economic and social situation, this structure starts to break down and shift into something else. Period. So to all these white evangelical Christians that want to go out here and you're bitching and you're Candace Owens and you're building America is not what America, like that 100 and something year old that veteran, that soldier that was crying because this isn't the America I fought for. I did not feel bad for that man at all. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like, you's a sucker. You fell for the shit. You believed the hype. The reason why it's not like it was when you were coming up was when he was coming up, there was at least some growth. These soldiers came back from World War II and the 30-year mortgage was created. The freaking FHA loans were created. The government subsidized housing, for them. John Levitt built houses for them. Then on top of that, Europe was bombed to hell. Japan was bombed to hell. Freaking China, was a second world / third world nation. There was no Shenzhen. Everything was produced and manufactured in America. And that is the model that Americans, that when they think of the perfect America, make America great again. Yeah, America could be great again. Yeah, if the rest of the world was basically suffering and they consumed everything that America produced. That is no longer the model. All this stuff, the free trade agreements, letting corporations take manufacturing overseas to China, pay those people pennies on the dollar, and then import those goods free of tariff back into the country, change the whole dynamic where manufacturing is no longer a thing in America. And I don't even know what you do with like the 80% of people who aren't going to go to college, because that only 20% of people go to college. So basically, if you want to make money in America today and live a decent lifestyle, you better have some hard skills, some technical skills. You better all that if you out here living in Kentucky, living in rural Mississippi, you living in any of these places, if you don't have or get some hard skills, the only thing that you're going to be able to do is work at Walmart or Target or some shit like that. That's what you're going to do, or work in an Amazon warehouse. That's what you're going to do. Because America doesn't produce anything anymore. It can't compete when, okay, pick something that you want to manufacture, a TV, that TV, you got to pay employees, $25 an hour to put together a TV, when you could take that same TV and you're competing against a company that's a US based company, but it produces all of its televisions in China, and those employees are being paid 50 cents an hour. The what do you want to call that? The cost to produce the good is far cheaper in China. That's why companies said it can't. If one company does it, they all have to do it, because no company can survive producing goods in America when another company is basically producing it, paying employees next to nothing. They have their slaves. And if they could take it one step further and make it robots and only have to pay an electric bill, they would do that. So while Christians want to go back to this 1950s model of nuclear family, I'm like, motherfucker, if you're not talking about men being gainfully employed, and again, I don't care how we get there. If you want to say, well, more Americans need to have technical skills and know how to use the web or something like that, and know how to write, HTML or CSS or whatever, or JavaScript. Hey, I'm not in disagreement with you, but at least you're talking about something that's going to equate to them being gainfully employed. But if you're trying to sit here and suggest that the way that we resolve this issue is for young men to sit up in the church with the sweet twinkle of Jesus in their eye, and they're still unemployed and they're still underemployed, you can go fuck yourself, because that's not going to fix the problem. And y'all keep pushing this shit. Oh, if I just give him this Bible with no economic opportunities, that somehow you're going to see more suburban houses that this young man can't afford, and you're going to see more nuclear families, and you're going to see more marriages that he can't afford. He can't even afford an engagement ring, let alone make enough money to where a woman would feel comfortable getting with him and then quote unquote submitting to him, and then moving into his non-existent house that he can't fucking afford. It's just like this comment that a guy, what was he talking about? Talking about the third world, what was I saying? The third world countries, and how there's family structures, they're just like anytime you have a situation where the economy is fucked up and you only have a small percentage of men that are gainfully employed in that society. Oh, I remember what he said. He made the point about, the problem is the opening up of the sexual markets. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, the sexual markets, no. I understand the argument. Oh, it's the sexual markets. It's because women are sexually not liberated. No, because women only want 20% of the dudes. So them being sexually liberated is irrelevant. No, actually, a bad economy sexually liberates men. It doesn't sexually liberate women. It sexually liberates men, because the men that find themselves in that high value category of the productive males, they can run through a bunch of bitches, because all the women only want to deal with them because they're the only ones that are in the position to financially support a family if a family were to be had. And many of them will just simply run through bitches and delay getting married and everything else while those women are getting used up and whatnot. It completely disrupts the society because the other men can't compete. And even if they were, depending on how long it takes them to get their shit together, when they finally do get their shit together, they're not going to want, especially now you can bring up the internet, they're not going to want these women that they know what they were doing. They know what they were doing with the high status men that didn't choose them because, they were like, hey, I can run through some fives and some sixes and some sevens. I'm only going to marry the 9, but I can run through these other women that I don't value as much because, they want me, but I don't really care for them. But hey, I'll take the pussy. They'll do that. But, the other men in society in a space where there's the internet and social media, they see that and they don't want to feel that insult. So they choose to what? Exit the dating market. But in a society where you have more men that are gainfully employed, women are not as inclined to only want to just date the 20% of dudes because it's not just the 20% that can provide a decent and solid lifestyle, a comfortable lifestyle with dignity. But when you got a situation where the majority of the men in that environment or that community are down and out, you're going to start seeing, for those women that are the sixes and the sevens or the whatever number 5, 6, 7, that don't have the highest sexual market value. They're again, the biological imperative. They're going to want to have a baby. So they're just going to have a baby with whoever they can have a baby after they get fucked by the 20% of dudes that, really don't particularly care for them because, she's not up to snuff of what they feel, those men feel that they can actually get or what they feel that they deserve. So it's a lopsided sexual market. So, the bottom line, at the end of the day, the family structures are going to be all janked up and screwed up and everything else as long as we continue having these societies that don't want to have men, in a position where they can provide for a family. It's the stupidest thing what the societies do. They sell this American dream. They sell this idea, oh, you got to have this, you got to have that. And this is where white people really start freaking out because, like I said before, they're victims of their own success because they create these ideas. They're the ones that run around, they wag their finger at black people, who, again, due to Jim Crow, redlining, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, redlining, blockbusting, eminent domain, urban renewal, all these sorts of things, right? Denial of FHA loans, all these things. Right, so black people have basically been crippled, and they've basically adjusted to the poverty, and they have babies underneath the new circumstances and situations that black people have been operating in ever since the end of fucking Reconstruction. Okay, went from slavery to Reconstruction, that ended, and then they ripped all that out from under us, and then burned down black communities, ran highways through black communities, so job discrimination, all that sorts of stuff. So they're going to have black people going to have, kids, however they have kids. White people, on the other hand, who have a superiority complex and believe that they should always be in this position, right? And then they run around wagging their finger at black people or even other minorities, let's say like Hispanics, right? And they think that they're always going to be, top dog. They're always going to be comfortable. And yes, and if you're poor, you shouldn't have kids, right? And then the economy hits them. And now what? White people so concerned. We need to close the borders. Oh, we don't, we're not having enough white children, right? Courts come through, they smack down Roe v. Wade because white America is not making enough white babies. Right. But then you got the corporate elites that want their slaves. They want their cheap labor. So they're like, hey, we got to open up the borders to bring in the Mexicans. But then that changes the American demographic, which drives white conservatives crazy. right? Not to say that from their perspective, I understand why they're fearful and everything else like that. But instead of saying, and demanding that these corporations pay, people more, even if they say we need to pay white people more, right? Even though I know that wouldn't go over very well, but I'm saying at least they're talking about paying somebody. But instead, they get on there and from the little cushy spot, and they think, oh well, we're white, so we're always going to be good. And those people over there, yes, you all are poor, and you don't need to be having kids if you're poor, and you should live up to Eurocentric standards, even though, right, we live in a society and a system that it really wasn't designed for you. So you can't live up to our standards. But then when the economy or the globalist or the corporations that white people have allowed to take these jobs overseas, these manufacturing and production jobs overseas, right now the white people, they don't have that economic cushion. So now again they're confronted with their own rhetoric. Well, white guy, if you can't afford the family, well, then maybe you shouldn't have any kids. But then that affects the demographics of not getting married, not producing children, right? Meanwhile, the blacks and the Hispanics are out here, they're having kids all willy-nilly all over the place because, again, the biological imperative is, have babies. And if you're used to poverty, you adjust to poverty. But isn't it interesting now that basically what you see it with Dave Ramsey, you see it with Fox News, they're essentially just like that white guy in that airport video. They're talking about, well, you need to manage poverty better. So now they're trying to get white people to manage poverty better. No more American dream. No, you white people just need to go out here and do like the blacks and do like the Hispanics and have kids and have babies without any stability. That's what you need to do. And you need to work these crummy jobs, while like 1% of America has all of the freaking wealth and everybody else is just scraping by. Right? The shit is mind blowing. Like, did you see the shit coming from the guy that owns Home Depot, the billionaire? He's like 93 years old. He made some statement about he basically blamed the woke left for like what's going on in America, and it's like I'm like, you don't want to pay people. You know what Home Depot's motto was originally? You know what Home Depot used to do? Home Depot, when Home Depot first started, when it came to them buying up all the, they got rid of all these other, hardware stores and whatnot. Home Depot used to have actual electricians in Home Depot, actual plumbers in Home Depot. Like, so when you went into Home Depot, hey, I'm trying to do some home improvement, right? You would actually talk to professionals. But see, they had to pay those people. Because of their expertise, what they knew. If you notice, and if you're old enough, the people that work at Home Depot are just like Joe Blow works at Home Depot now. It's not the same people that actually were carpenters, electricians, and plumbers, that knew exactly what you needed. Right? Or even the contractors that would come in there. They knew exactly what you need. Oh, actually, you need this. You need a 5/8, blah, 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 blah. Right? Those people are gone because Home Depot got rid of them. We ain't paying them that type of money. So now you just got regular people wearing the orange apron in Home Depot. Right? But this ancient freaking silent generation individual, right? Because he'd be silent. Yeah, he'd be silent. He'd damn near be the silent generation. He had to be the silent generation, right? Because people who are the boomers, they're like in their 70s, 80s, but he's like 93. Nah, maybe he's got to be at the beginning of he's got to be silent generation. I don't know what generation he is. But anyway, I'm saying, I'm like, he blames the woke left. And the conservatives, they love him for it. But I'm like, I'm sitting there, and this is what blows my mind about all these white billionaire, white oligarchs and shit like that. And how, literally they sold out America. Like they're more globalist than anything. But it's like, the lack of shit clicking in their head. Like, I'm like, Home Depot What do people go to Home Depot for? Home improvement. What home improvement do you think is going to be made when you got organizations like Blackstone buying up all the private property because they're trying to turn everybody into renters because they know that the millennials and the zillennials are not going to be able to afford these goddamn properties when these properties are up for sale when the boomers die, right? Who's going to be improving their homes? Who's going to be going in there and saying, oh yeah, I want that $1,000 ceiling fan? At Home Depot, you're going to see Home Depot's stocks plummet because nobody is going to be making home improvements. Because as I said before, if you don't have ownership, you don't have a sense of pride. And if you don't have a sense of pride, you don't give a fuck about improving some shit, investing in other people's shit. It's not yours. So, and he probably doesn't care because that man's going to be dead. But Home Depot as an organization is going to decline. This is why they don't put Home Depots in black communities. Because black communities are economically deprived, and in economically deprived environments, people don't make home improvement. So with no home improvement, nobody's going to Home Depot. There's no business there, which is why Home Depots are in the hood. You have to have growth for a Home Depot to thrive. But everybody ignores this shit. Again, like I said, these white conservative Christians, they're the enemies of everybody, including themselves. Because they want their religion, they want it to mean so much. Oh, that's the fabric of society. It's the glue that holds everything together. And if we all just went to church and got right with the Lord and did what the Bible said, that suddenly economic opportunities would open up and suddenly men would be able to afford, the houses that they can't currently afford. And what's so bullshit about white people when they do that? And Captain Solo was the one that really pointed this out. That they always try to sell everybody else some shit that doesn't work for them. That's not how they get down. You know what I'm saying? The economic opportunities are there first. Then white people move there, and then they're able to purchase and buy shit. And then, you have the formings of a community, right? That's how it works. Nobody's moving out to California with no gold rush, right? Nobody's moving to the Midwest without there being the Louisiana Purchase and the U.S. government saying, hey, just go out there and claim whatever you want to claim because we got to populate the area. You know what I mean? Like they always try to sell this idea that when it comes to everybody else, if you get right with my God, if you get right with my Christianity and my Jesus, right? Even with the Muslims, if you get right with my Allah, right? Because they don't respect anybody's culture. They move into a community, and the first thing they want to do is build a mosque and try to convert everybody. That's their ultimate goal, is to convert everybody. But I'm talking about Christianity right now because that's what we deal with in America. So they come through and they tell everybody that you need to get right with God, and then good things will happen to you. And it's such bullshit. And the thing is like, maybe I shouldn't be too excited about it because, I remember, Fox News just recently made a post. They had the what's her name? What's that woman's name? The woman, what's her name? Starts with a P. She had the Judge Show. What's her name? Janine Pirro. What's her name? Is that her name? Something like that. Anyway, she was up there talking about this shit about, the decline in Christianity. I'm like, hell yeah, there's going to be a decline in Christianity. You know what I mean? Because again, when opportunities are there and people go to church, yeah, it looks like Christianity works. It looks like, hey, if you get right with God and everything else like that, life is good, right? And the opportunities are there. And as long as you keep going to church, they'll stay there. Yeah, it looks like that until you remove the opportunities. Remove the opportunities, and then people start saying, man, there's nothing here. It's just a bunch of feel-goodery. And men are the first ones to recognize that because men are the ones that have to produce. They can't operate off of hope indefinitely. and wishful thinking indefinitely and feelings and emotions. That's for the women. That's why you see a whole bunch of women sitting up in church and a bunch of freaking boomers that have basically screwed over their own goddamn progeny, and now they're feeling guilty and now they're trying to sit up there and try to find some way to get their asses into heaven and shit. Because the closer that people get to death, the more religious they suddenly want to become. Even though they have a lifetime of doing fucked up shit. I mean, I don't even see where people think, like, all these people that push all this Christian. I don't see. I made a video about this, and then YouTube flagged it, and then YouTube took down the flag when I broke down what it was. I was like, listen to the damn thing, But they go out here and they, all this Christian this, and you got to have a Christian moral compass and everything, and then you listen to white conservatives. You just listen to them. You listen to them. Where is the godliness? It's all, it's personal responsibility. We don't owe anybody anything. It's because people are lazy. It's this, that, and third. I'm the only hardworking motherfucker here. I'm the only hardworking motherfucker in the world. Let them tell it. You know what I mean? And literally, like, the crazy thing is, like, they're just like they're like a rock's throw away from poverty. I'm like, motherfucker, you're like one paycheck away from being where Jamal is. No, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Like, you can't convince them and shit. And then you start, and you like, it's all personal responsibility. It's all, they're lazy. They don't want to work, da 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 da, until he loses his job. Then it turns into, well, I'm not supposed to be here, right? And then next thing you know, they start doing what? They start hitting a bottle. They start doing opioids. They start deleting themselves. You know what I mean? Look at states like Montana. You know what I mean? States like Idaho and shit like that, and all those flyover country states. Look at them. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing but white folks out there. High deletion rates. Why? I wonder why. Why is that happening to all those white males out there? Yeah, because, again, victims of their own success. They buy into all this Fox News bullshit rhetoric, and then and they don't pay attention to the economics. They don't pay attention to class. They think everything is a race war. And then when they find themselves in a pickle, when they find it, they can't handle the shit. They're weak as fuck. Weak as fuck. Weak. Oh, it's easy to talk some shit when you cushy, when you comfortable. But the minute white men run into a fucking obstacle, all them motherfuckers fold. They fold hard as shit. If you don't believe me, again, I direct you to the deletion rates. The self-deletion rates. That speaks for itself. But while they were alive, while they were living, oh man, we the most hard-workingest motherfuckers. Everybody else is lazy except for us. It's just the craziest shit, right? Like, it's like they always try to claim themselves to be the baddest motherfuckers. We the baddest motherfuckers. I'm like, and black men went off, and sometimes it's like, I could look at it from one of two ways. The black men were suckers when they went off and fought in World War I and World War II and the Civil War and the Korean War and all this other shit. But I'm saying, when you really look at it, like, when you claim that we the hardest motherfuckers and we the most hardworking motherfucker. The hardest working motherfucker would be a motherfucker that goes to work and doesn't get paid, but he still shows up. But again, we could look at that. He's either a sucker or he's actually the hardest working motherfucker. And the same thing with men that go off and fight the war. African American went off and fought for this country and fought for war when they weren't even full-fledged citizens in this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if white men really want to stand on a square of how badass of a motherfucker they are, yeah, let me see you go without and then still get up in the morning and do what the fuck you do. Why is it the minute that they don't get any cookies anymore, the minute that they don't get that carrot that they thought was there anymore, all of a sudden it's self-deletion all over the fucking place. But they'll be the main ones sitting up there talking all the shit they talk about, who they think is fucking lazy and who's not personally responsible and all this other bullshit. But then the minute that factory shuts down, they're like, what am I gonna do? I don't know what I'm gonna do. They up there crying like a little bitch. You know what I mean? And it's like, and honestly, like it's like part of me like wants them to suffer, because I go back, like I said, I pull up the video, Stokely Carmichael. Niggas try to tell white men this shit since forever. That it is class warfare first, racial shit second. But were white men ever going to come together and form Voltron with black men on this economic issue? Fuck no. Fuck no. And now they running around, I can't feed my family. I can't purchase a house. None of my white female counterparts want to date me because I'm broke. Oh, I got to go over to the manosphere and listen to Andrew Tate and Rich Cooper to get some advice on how I can self-improve in this gig economy, because I can't go and be gainfully employed everywhere because all these places that are controlled by the white men that look like me don't want to pay anybody. So I got to go over here and sign up for Hustle University. I gotta go over here and do drop shipping. I gotta go over here and don't get me twisted. Some of these things make great money. I gotta be a day trader and do Forex and some other shit. Like, you don't see how broken America is from the employer versus employee standpoint. Your grandparents didn't have to do that. Your great-grandparents didn't. Them motherfuckers only had a high school education, graduated high school, got a job at some plant, worked there for 35 years, full medical and dental, pensions, were able to send your mother to school, send your father to school. They raised you in the fucking 80s or 90s or early 2000s. No, I've seen early 2000s. That shit was dead by then. Raised you in the 80s and early 90s, okay? And bam, you're here, right? You live I see all these videos lamenting the 90s on the internet. Like, the 90s were awesome. People are like, oh man, we just wish we could go back to the 90s when shit was way simpler, right? And the hope of opportunities were there. Right? I mean, the shit is coming. It's coming in terms of, what do I mean by the shit is coming? Like, this tsunami of, you got AI, you got freaking, and some of the AI shit is just straight scary. If you go on YouTube and really dive deep on YouTube into what the AI is actually capable of. You got people basically saying that it's Skynet already. And then you throw in manufacturing and all this stuff becoming more efficient. You're just going to have this very small population of elite. It's going to be like that movie Elysium with Matt Damon, right? They're going to be living up there on the satellite somewhere, and everybody else is just going to be living on dirty Earth, right? They're going to have to come out with universal basic income. And I'm saying, and that's like way, 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 way down the road. You know what I mean? But what I see, and I've said this before, what I see is they're just going to build this big ass barge. And I'm being hypothetical when I say this. They're going to build this, the corporation is going to build this big ass barge. And it's got all the factory machinery and everything that's on there. And they're just going to keep moving around. They're like, oh, we're in China. We got beef with China. They want to take over Taiwan. Okay, we'll just move down to Taiwan. We'll just move the barge off the coast of Taiwan, and we will, not Taiwan, off the coast of Vietnam, and we'll just get all these young Vietnamese men, and we'll pay them, 50 cents again. You know what I mean? Oh shit, their standard of living went up. Oh, they're demanding too much. Okay, we're just gonna move the barge, to India. We'll go to India. We'll be in Bombay. We'll find the Slumdog Millionaire kids. Okay, and then we'll be there. We'll pay them 50 cents. Oh shit. Oh, the standard of living's going up. Oh man, y'all demanding too much. Okay, we're gonna move over to Africa. You know what I mean? We'll park the barge right out of South Africa. We're gonna pay them 50 cents. It's just rinse, wash, repeat. You see, so these are the downside aspects of globalization, where I mean, if you look at any product that you have, it's made in multiple places around the world, and all these things are funneled, into the channels, to produce that, one final product: the resins, the electronics, the cobalt, the gold, the silver, all these high conductance, low resistance materials for the electronic process, the silica for the what do you call them damn things? The damn solenoids and the microchips and all that stuff, right? So it's like, okay, well, what do you do with that model? I mean, just fast forward, like just further advance human civilization. Just fast forward 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. Okay, or we're now mining on Mars and shit like that. I'm saying there's a ton of automation. You know what I mean? You got freaking robots. It's Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, right? I think it was Infinite Warfare. That was the one where they had the robots and shit like that. They got the little dogs now, all that stuff, right? Boston Dynamics times 10, right? Like, where is the need to get, if you got those Boston Dynamics robots picking oranges in the fucking in the fields in Florida, where is the need for human labor? I'm saying if technology advances that much, where is the need for that? Even when it comes to freaking capitalism. What do you think? They talk about UFOs and aliens and they're floating around and all this shit. You think they function off of fucking capitalism? You think that's how they operate when your technology gets that damn high? I told you, let me be in Star Trek. I'll be on the holodeck all day fucking some bitches. You know what I'm saying? I just go in there and just start naming porn stars and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like the holodeck, that shit used to crack me up. Holodeck, make me some gin and tonic. Shit be like, shit just, if you're that advanced as a civilization, you know what I'm saying? Like what significance does money have at that point? Now I'm getting real abstract and I'm getting real way out there, but I'm saying at this point, society is at a crossroad. It's at a transition. And it can get really ugly in the meantime, because nobody wants to be realistic about, why the old model doesn't work anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, if you want to say that we should transition into something else, okay, fine. But don't sit there and talk about how you want the old model, but ignore the fact that what was in place that made the old model work is no longer in place. There is no situation where a man can literally graduate high school with just a high school education and go start working a job and then be able to pay for, at minimum a 3-bedroom house, single family home. That's impossible. Impossible. Those jobs aren't here anymore. Those jobs had strong unions. Nobody wants to talk about unions. Fox News up there, they start talking about unions and shit. They start bringing up trickle-down economics. They start saying, oh, well, employers are not going to hire people because you're making them pay more and the cost of everything is going to go up. And no, we don't support unions, blah, 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 blah. Right? But then they turn around, when people are only making like, $12 an hour, then they turn around and start talking about, well, why aren't young men getting married? And how come we don't have, stable traditional households anymore? I know what it is. It's because they're not going to church. Not because the motherfucker is making $12 an hour. Like this shit is retarded. And I don't know why. I mean, just from a purely intellectual standpoint, I don't know why anybody doesn't catch this and they just let this shit slide. You know, it's like you're getting criticized, you know, on both ends. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Right? You say, hey, we need a union. They say, oh, trickle down economics. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Oh, you know, it's going to affect everything. And then turn right around and then start asking young men why they're not getting married, why they're not, starting families, and how that's going to affect America's ambitions of wanting to go to war. That's why they out here, you know, fucking with Andrew Tate and shit like that, because he's got so much influence over young military-aged men. Saw that shit coming. But the thing is did Andrew Tate exploit, you know, the algorithms? Did he exploit the whole manosphere? I told you, the gender war industrial complex. But these were problems that were already arising. Andrew Tate is not saying anything new. Kevin Samuels didn't say anything new. Hell, we've been talking these points. I mean, there's so many other people that I could name that came before all these. Paul Elam, you know, Mr. Sandman, Barbarossa, you know, Thug Titian. I'm throwing OG names out here. There were plenty of guys that were saying the same thing. You know, but you know, Andrew Tate, he played the algorithms, you know, TikTok, because the way the TikTok works, you know, the videos that produce the first the videos that the new accounts get the most views. So he's paying people to basically post all these other accounts. That's why you can't go through IG, YouTube, or fucking Instagram is IG. You can't go through any of these websites without fucking his shit coming up. It's just impossible. He's literally everywhere. Everywhere. It doesn't matter how much they ban his account individually. He's everywhere. But the reality is, the reason why his message resonates with so many men is not just because men have long been saying that, but because you have the zillennials, you have a new wave, a new generation of young men that cannot get their lives started because of the way the economic system is, and nobody wants to pay anybody. And again, whether it's the American dream, I mean, they should start having propaganda campaigns to get to, at the very least, eliminate the American dream. Just start making movies of showcasing dusty relationships and men somehow getting with the girl and he doesn't have anything and they're a bunch of beachcombers and whatnot. Because that would be closer to a lot of young men's reality. If the issue is that you want, you know, young people to have babies despite not having resources, but if you think you're going to sit there and have, you know, every Christmas Home Alone comes up on television and you sitting there watching Home Alone, like, look at that big ass house in Chicago. And then you're like, damn, this motherfucker paid for 9 people to go on a vacation to a trip to France, right? You know, a two-way trip. How much did that cost? You know, and like I said, you know, it's sad when you know, in the 80s and the 90s, Homer Simpson was a laughing stock, but now Homer Simpson's lifestyle is out of reach for so many young men. He's got Homer Simpson the buffoon, yeah, Homer Simpson the buffoon, working in a nuclear power plant, living in the suburbs, raising 3 kids, and has a stay-at-home wife. So when people are like, "Oh, Andrew Tate is a misogynistic. Why is his message resonating with so many young men?" It's because it's an army of misogynists. Y'all ain't looking at the math. You know, and if you think that to me, the Christians are playing a dangerous game. Motherfuckers will burn that church down and they will rebuke Jesus if you keep on pushing with the idea that Jesus fixes all, and that if you just get right with God, you know, you're going to be able to have this, you know, traditionally oriented family, and the math ain't mathing. I'm like, you have no idea how much you're putting Christianity in the crosshairs. It would be wiser to shut the fuck up and start reading the passages in the Bible that actually talk about, you know, the importance of resources, because it's in there. It's in there. It's funny how that's the shit even all the Christians that want to get on me about being an atheist, they never bring that shit up. They'll be the first ones to tell you it's not about the resources. It's about whether you got Christ in your bosom. I'm like, there's quite a few passages in the Bible that talk about money and resources and the importance of that and how you're not supposed to, just pass go and collect $200 just because you feel like it. If you haven't, hit the appropriate benchmarks. I'm sick of everybody. I'm sick of all these people spewing nonsense. It's about the money. It's about the money. It's about the fucking money. If you do not put money in the hands of young men so that they can make moves, you have no argument about why aren't they starting families? Not to mention the fact that when you have that situation going on, right, eventually those men are going to start getting pissed off to the point that they might do something about it. And that's the part. That's why they got to get rid of Andrew Tate, telling young men that they have every right to be angry. They have every right to be pissed off at what the fuck is going on. And the old boomer elites, oh man, they can't have that fight, man. Fuck that. Fuck that. And then on top of the fact that Andrew Tate's message resonates, throughout the world. So Andrew Tate's conversation is global conversation. Like I said, China's going through the same thing. You do the whole one-child policy, so now you got this, like 27 million imbalance between women and girls, right? You got Zhu Xiaodong, they smack him down because they don't want him promoting, disrespecting the elders because he's beating up kung fu masters whose kung fu wasn't shit, right? So he's challenging authority. Can't have that, right? Then you got the whole housing market, right? You got they're paying for houses that aren't even built and shit. So young men can't purchase houses. So they gotta compete over the limited number of Chinese women, right? So the Chinese women have the upper hand. They only want to deal with the dudes that have houses, right? But then that's now out of the grips of many young Chinese men. They have no hope in order to start families as it pertains to that, right? Then China goes and they ban hip hop because they say hip hop is degenerate because, black people, right? Then turn right around and then put it in their freaking their advertisements for the military, for the PLA, right? Because they want to invade Taiwan, but you got all the young Chinese men basically saying lie flat. They're basically saying, nah, fuck it. Again, nothing's for free in this world. Nothing's for free. And I personally think that not only America, but the world has really, really just totally devalued and underestimated men. Like they're not all that shame. Like you can shame women with some bullshit. You're not going to be able to shame dudes with that bullshit. They recognize it's some bullshit. It's about the fucking money. You know what I mean? I ain't got no pussy for you to fuck. You can't just whisper sweet nothings in my ear and think that that's going to make young men go out here and be productive. No. What do we get in return? Do we get some stability? Do we get to have our little own, our own, this is what the feminists hate, our little own kingdom with our wives and our children and pass on something and have a legacy and generational wealth? Do we get a piece of the pie? And the global white elites are saying, no, you don't get shit. And the young men are saying, well, you can suck this dick and lick these balls. And like I said, that's why they're trying to get rid of that Second Amendment. You see what's going on in Iran right now. They just executed a 23-year-old in Iran because of the protest. Because he assaulted a police officer. This is after that girl was killed because they had the moral police in Iran. And she her hijab wasn't fully covering her hair, and so they came down on her, and they've been having protests from the young people every 20 years, man. The young people ain't gonna put up with the bullshit that the old people are trying to do in terms of maintaining power. You know what I mean? That's why, in my opinion, immortality or not having immortality is a good thing. You know what I mean? Because think about how stale and stagnant the world would be if like the old people, like it's like you everybody's immortal, and like you got somebody who's like literally been here for 1,000 years, and I'm like, with 1,000 years, like it's like somebody made that joke. They were like, why are fucking vampires? Why is all vampires are always rich? And somebody was like, you know what I mean? If you've been alive since, he's like, if you've been alive since 1878 and you're still broke, just walk into the sun. Just walk into the sun. Like, I thought that shit was hilarious. And it's true. If you have a lifetime of like you've been alive forever, you're immortal, and you go 200 years being broke, like the fuck, nigga, like the fuck. So I'm saying, death, it like cleanses the system. It refreshes the system. Where young people can come up with some new ideas and new ways of doing things. But the old people, man, they won't get the fuck out of the way. They will not get the fuck out of the way. And I'm blown away at how white boomers and all the white people that for the longest time were maintaining the system of white supremacy. I'm blown away that they're screwing over their own kids. You know what I mean? Telling black people that they're lazy, telling whoever else that they're fucked up in something. I get that, right? We're not cut from the same cloth, right? I get them pulling that shit, namely on black people. But when it comes to them pulling that shit on their own kids, like, I'm still shocked. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, white supremacy, they're only going to put their kids on, right? Their kids is going to have shit set up and it's going to be laid out for them, right? They're going to pass the torch over on to them, and their kids are going to grab the torch and maintain that white supremacy and then keep doing that indefinitely, right? That's what I'm thinking, right? If I was trying to maintain white supremacy, that's what the fuck I would do, right? If that's the order of the day. But instead, no. They're like, all this wealth is mine, and we're not paying you anything. And if you try to form unions, we'll just fire you, and we'll do a whole bunch of shit that's supposed to be illegal, but we don't care. And then hey, you can't fuck with us because while you go out there and you vote and you think that you guys are your votes actually mean something, we're the ones paying the lobbyists, we're the ones paying the politicians, we're the ones. So they answer to us. They're our bitch, not your bitch. So your vote doesn't mean anything. If you don't believe me, look no further than the Electoral College. Ha 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 ha, right? You know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, give it a little bit more time. I'm like, you got revolution on your hands. It's coming. And that's why they're scrambling. We got to get rid of these assault weapons. Yeah, you better get rid of these assault weapons. You better get rid of them. Because I'm like, eventually people are going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's why I think, and this is why I say black people need to be careful, and why black people should be the most heavily armed people in America, because what they're going to do is they're going to try to ramp up the race war shit. They're going to try to ramp up, everything that doesn't focus on class. Because if you start talking about class and you start talking about economics and you start talking about money and then you start talking about economic opportunities and you start talking about what people are really making, and then people start doing the math and they're like, wait a minute. No. They can't have that. They got to keep all the abstract bullshit. All the shit Fox News does, every year. You know what I mean? And this is an attack on Christmas. They got to start talking about all this symbolic bullshit. This is an attack on American values. All this intangible shit. This is an attack on Christianity. This is an attack on our way of life as Americans, right? They got to focus on that. Yeah, keep your ass focused on that bullshit. That intangible ain't increasing the commas in your bank account. Keep focused on that bullshit. And as long as you focused on that bullshit, we can continue doing what we're doing, and we don't have to address the economic component. You see, Because nobody's angrier. There's nobody angrier in this world than a young man that can't get his life started. There's nobody angry. A young man got no pussy, can't start his life, can't attract women. Why do you think you see you got young black men out there trying to sell drugs, making money, killing each other in the streets, right? And then you got white boys shooting up the schools, right? I mean, let's just look at it for what it is. So like I said, I'm like, young, angry men, I'm like, that's not something you want to fuck with. It's just not. It's not. But, these folks, they keep wanting to play this game. And I'm just waiting for like I said, I have my doubts when it comes to this, but for the proletariat white men to snap out of their fucking delusion with all this shit about these Christian moral values and principles that they're upholding, that everybody else needs to get with what we're getting with. I'm like, just wait, just wait a little bit longer, wait for the bottom to fall out. And let them suffer a little bit longer, and then maybe they'll snap out of their delusion. Maybe they won't. But I'm like, no. Y'all motherfuckers need to be way more uncomfortable than where you are now in order for you to really realize that it's about the money and it's not about all this intangible spiritual shit. That is not the glue of society. The glue of society is what is the economic foundation for young men? That is the glue of society. That's where you can have, neighborhoods and communities. Hell, you can't even have a community. If I'm making money, let's say I'm making money and the guy next to me is not making money. I can't have a community. I can't have a neighborhood unless there's a bunch of men making the same type of money that I'm making. Once that happens, then we can start talking about he's got his family, the guy across the street got his family, right? We move into a neighborhood. We care about the neighborhood. We care about the environment. We all have the same interests. We all want the best for our kids, right? Right. So that forms a community. But you can't have one dude and he's making money and everybody else, all the other men in the neighborhood are broke. Then that becomes an unsafe neighborhood for the one guy that has his shit together. I don't know what people don't get about this. They want to sit there and act like, all the dudes, he's hitting the bottle and because he's lazy. No, he's hitting the bottle because he's fucking depressed because he can't do anything else because the opportunities aren't there. Or he doesn't know, what else he can do. That's the one thing I'll say about Andrew Tate and his Hustle University and shit. Like I'm saying, motherfuckers can say what say what they want about him. I'm saying he's got, guys making, $20,000 a month, $40,000 a month. Doing affiliate marketing and all of the type of bullshit on YouTube, reposting his videos. He's putting money in the pockets of young men. Those that dive deep into, his all his stuff on his website. Not, I'm talking about the ones that go hard in the paint, not the ones that are just like, I went over there and I think it's bullshit. Now I'm talking about the ones that go hard in the paint and now are riding around in their own, supercars and shit like that. They're making money. But by the same token, I think that as much as I think the messaging and getting men to improve themselves is a positive, I think that this artificial situation of making money where people only have internet skills and no other skills is bad. You go on YouTube now, another doctor, another medical student quits, medicine. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're going to need doctors. You're going to need people with these skills. That you're going to need people who go to school to get the knowledge, to get the skills so that they actually, know what they're doing. Not just people running around with microphones in people's faces going, light skins or dark skins, light skins or dark skins. Like that's dumb. So it's like a whole society of entertainers, who basically have their own TV show that they created for themselves to sit there and, get involved in the gender war industrial complex. I'm like, eventually, I mean, if everybody's like, oh, get rich on the gender war industrial complex, and then nobody's going to schools and nobody's, gaining, hard skills and whatnot, then, when you need to go out there and get something done, you can't get it done. Oh my God, my dog is sick. Oh, let me take it to the vet. Sorry, we don't have any veterinarians in the area. Why not? Well, because, people going to vet school has been dropping precipitously over the last 15 years. But my dog is sick. Sorry. You see, like shit like that. Like it's not going to hit people until much later. Even when it comes to even the vocational stuff, it's like even the guys, I got a Bugatti and I'm making all this money and I want to put some hardwood floors in one of the rooms in my chateau. And then it's like, yes, I'm looking for a carpenter. Sorry, we don't have any carpenters. What do you mean you don't have any carpenters? No, we don't have any carpenters, and we don't have any carpenter assistants because, people don't go to carpentry school anymore because, it's a brokies type of job. That's what brokies do. So sorry, we don't have anybody who can put in your hardwood floors. Shit like that. And it's just going to be a society of fucking skillless people. Look no further than the black community. Hate saying it, but it's just a fact of the situation with poverty. And it's like, the 80s came and freaking, the CIA dumping drugs in the black community. And then you had young black men that were drug dealers and everybody wants to be a drug dealer. And Dame Dash, I took the money and I flipped it. You know what I mean? All that shit, right? Rappers, they're making money off of rappers. So now all we got is in the black community, we got barbershops, mega churches, drug dealers, and rappers. That's what the black community has. We don't produce anything. We don't manufacture anything, nothing. And if you want to, even if you are a drug dealer and you want some nice shit in your place, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be calling a white contractor to come over and install it or put it in. So that's more money going out of the community, right? So like there's nothing, there's not enough people in the community to that's the word I'm looking for, to diversify the economy of that community. So I'm like, I guess, so that's what we're doing now. Everybody's just entertaining themselves to death. Everybody's in entertainment. Everybody's in the business of inspiration. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm in the manosphere. That's how I make my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm in the business of inspiration. I encourage young men to self-improve. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, does anybody have any fucking hard skills? I mean, damn, does anybody? No, hard skills, huh? That would take that's 4 years at a university at an institution. That takes too long. Why do that when I can, do pranks, on YouTube and make money that way? And I can, go out here and get my 3-year-old child to play with a toy and say how awesome it is and get $27 million from doing why do anything else? Why go to medical school when I could go over here and I can, talk about, all of the fashion designing clothes in my closet? Like, why do that? I didn't know I was hot until I came on the internet. Oh, check me out in my bikini. Look, I got 500,000 views just off of showing my body on YouTube in a bikini. This is paying the bills. Why am I stressing myself out with all these other careers? So it's going to be a double whammy. Like the Western society, American society is going to pay hard hard for fucking with the dials when it comes to young men. It's going to pay so hard. It's not going to come tomorrow. It's not going to come overnight. It's going to be this gradual thing. And I mark my words. In like 10 years, 15 years, they're going to be sitting up on the news. They're going to be talking about some crazy numbers, some crazy, like marriage is at an all-time low. It's even lower than what it was in 2022. They'll be saying all type of shit. You know what I mean? We don't have enough vocational skills, Mike Rowell died today, and he was one of the main speakers about men and vocational skills. And it's going to be all fucked up. All fucked up. You know what I mean? It is the year, 2042, and now the U.S. government is reinstating the draft. It's going to be all fucked up. I'm telling you, it's going to be all fucked up. You know what I mean? Then you'll have some hardline conservatives jump up. Some more demagogues will jump up. They'll be trying to ban LGBT. And see, the problem is the sissification of America and the sissification of young men. And I'm just be sitting there, I'll be an old man. I'll be sitting there saying to myself, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers still don't want to pay motherfuckers. You still are talking about everything but putting money in the hands of young men so that they can start their lives as early as possible, be, just ravish. What's the word that I'm looking for? Just over the top productive and competitive and make America great. You know what I mean? But what they want, they want the outcome of that without any sort of proper compensation for young men. You know what I mean? So no wives, no children, no property. And, they're really pushing this. They're really pushing this, and they're really coming up on the news and television and acting like they don't know what we're talking about. Money, what are you talking about? No, and I'm like, damn, how many decades are y'all going to go pushing this idea that the problem is we took prayer out of the schools. Prayer being in the schools has nothing to do, or the lack thereof has nothing to do with a bunch of stuffy old white men sitting around a table deciding that they're going to take jobs overseas because it's more cost effective for the company and benefits them and their bonuses and shareholders. No amount of the church or Jesus is going to change that, nor does it have anything to do with, why they actually did that. They made a calculated decision and have the power to do so. And they made that decision at the expense of the American people. That's all there is to it. Now, you can sit here and you can waste your time talking about how it's because we took prayer out of the schools, or because, we don't have, my favorite, we don't have fathers in the home. You're not going to have fathers in the home sitting around being emasculated by their bitter woman because he has nothing to offer if you're not talking about paying these young men anything to wear, anything that she can actually respect. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you need? Well, they need to, where are the parents? They need to discipline the children. A father who has nothing to offer his children is not in a position to discipline his children. You think he's just going to come and, well, what he needs to do is take off his belt. Trust me, a kid is only going to take ass whoopings from a man that provides nothing for so long before he stands up and starts whipping his ass, which is the same thing that I'm saying about, what people are going to do to, what young men are going to do to this country if this country keeps fucking around when it comes to young men and their ability to produce and provide. I don't know what people get about, don't get about this shit. But anyway, I'm going on and on. I could just keep going, because just the dumb talking points that people make, the conclusions that people come up with. I'm like, I might as well just like stick my head in the room and be like, and just like look at the person like I'll designate as like the listener. I'll be like, I'll stick my head in the room. I will interrupt the whole shit. I'll be like, yo, are they talking about money yet? And the person like in the back of the room, they're just shaking their head. I'm like, all right, yeah. All right, well, let me know when they start talking about money. I'll come back later. And I'll fucking close that door and I'll come back next year and shit. They talking about money yet? No. What are they talking about now? They're talking about, if maybe we should be practicing some ancient Viking religion. I'm like, so we left Christianity. Now we're on ancient Viking religions, and that's going to somehow, so let me get this right. So white men taking ice baths is going to increase the testosterone and make white men more masculine because we have a lack of masculinity problem. I'm like, man, they still not talking about money, huh? Nope, they're not talking about money. Okay, all right. Let me know when they decide to talk about money. Okay, just let me know. I'll come back when they start having that conversation. You know what I mean? And it'll be the same thing. I'll come back. They'll be talking about some other bullshit. I'm like, okay, so they talking about money again yet? Are they bringing up money? The guy in the back of the room, he shakes his head again. What are they talking about now? They're talking about no fap. They're talking about, guys need to not be masturbating, and that will, let me guess, that will increase the level of testosterone, and men will be masculine again, and they'll go out here and be. I'm like, they still not talking about money. They still not talking about paying people, huh? They talking about everything else, right? I'm like, okay, all right. Let me know when they start talking about money and paying men and men being gainfully employed. When they finally get to that, let me know. I come back again, I stick my head in the room and, I'm like, yeah, where's the guy at? Oh, he died. You know what I mean? This shit it's so fucked up, man. It's so fucked up. And you got all these people, I've seen Rich do it. They've all done it. Anybody that has so much as a gray beard, I don't know how old Rich Cooper is, but they refuse to get on the men being gainfully employed tip. They always want to sit there and talk about, it's because you're not eating enough spinach. You're not exercising enough. And I do agree with the exercise part, but I'm like, man, that's so secondary to paying young men enough to freaking establish their lives. I'm like, what don't y'all get about this shit? Motherfucker's gonna be drowning in porn when he doesn't have access to women because he's not making any money. He has no way to actually attract them. He can't even go someplace and drop some money and spend money and show a chick a good time. It's only 20% of dudes that are doing that. Flying chicks out. Guys see this. She got flued out. There's so many chicks on IG that have been flued out. I know a chick right now, she's driving around in a fucking Hyundai, an old one, but yet on her IG, and I know her personally, but on her IG, she's taking trips all over the world. She's in Fiji. She's in Egypt. She's in the Jamaica. She's just traveling. Every city across the U.S. in some high-rise apartment. I'm like, chick, you got dudes sliding in your DMs saying, yo, girl, you look good. Da 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 da. I'm this, that in person. Get flued out. They go. She goes there for a weekend. She's basically prostituting herself. Basically, and that's the attitude that women take. Like, hey, if I'm going to guys are just going to fuck me anyway. If I'm going to get fucked, I might as well get fucked by a millionaire. I might as well get fucked by a guy that's got some goddamn money. You know what I mean? That way, when it comes down to the disrespect, I can at least say, swallow that. I can at least, pun intended, but I'm saying she can at least, accept that, Getting disrespected by a millionaire is different than getting disrespected by a bum. So yeah, they're doing that. But that speaks to the fact that you don't have other men that even have a reasonable amount of success. All that shit with the men being average, you know what I mean? Like $40,000, yeah, it's average in America, but that's poverty, yo. That's poverty. That is not anything that I personally would support a family on. And it's so funny because I got a clip of this guy working at UPS, and he's a part of a union. You know how much money he was making? $40 an hour. $40 an hour, and that's after he was working there for 3 years because it was had like a pay scale, and so he maxed out the pay scale. So he was making $40 an hour, which I think is $83,000 a year. You can do something with that. Now, I wouldn't suggest go out there and have, fucking, 5 kids, but I'm saying you can do something with that. But all this, $10 an hour, even $15 an hour, that ain't shit. Straight up, it ain't shit. And so, like I said, I mean, I just, it blows my mind just looking at the shit. I'm like, young white men came back from World War II, and it was like it was understood. It was understood. They understood the assignment. You know what I mean? Yeah, these young men coming back. Yeah, we gotta get them. We gotta get them on their feet. Build us these Levitt towns. You know what I mean? I mean, think about it. They all came back. They all got married at the same time, had kids at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, there's no wave like that now. And then you throw in all the shit with the courts and the child custody and everything. It's even further disincentivized. Personally, I don't think the marriage thing, aside from the economics, I don't think the marriage thing is going to change until they change the divorce laws. They're going to have to change that. It's about time that they start incentivizing things, for men to be. They've already incentivized all the shit for women to act as crazy as they do. They haven't incentivized men to be the men that America says that they want men to be. I don't care, what race you're talking about. They haven't done it. And it seems like they're not going to do it. They rather cater to divorced single women, or childless single women. What do you need, ladies? Right? And this is something that men need to work on. Men definitely have to get more organized, when it comes to voting. And not only that, men are going to have to stop voting along political lines, on the, Democrat or Republican, and men are going to have to start voting on what do you call it? Gender-based lines, as men, more class and economic lines, as the working proletariat. That's what men are going to have to do. But if men don't do that, then, we're going to continue to have these problems, and you're going to continue to have men disincentivized from getting married and settling down. But anyway, I'm pretty much done with this video. I'm going to head to bed. So that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.